Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the undercard of Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. They've done the first two press conferences. Look, we're a boxing channel here. We're not talking about spectacles or entertainment. In that department, they're going to smash this event. In terms of boxing, it is a fucking clown show. It is a circus. They had clowns there. I don't know what is going on. The press conference is very, very weird. Tank Davis almost looks like he cannot be fucking asked to be there. The face-offs, it's just been weird. Honestly, it's just been weird. It's been odd. It's been different. Tank Davis looks like he doesn't know what he's doing there. Jake Paul is Jake Paul. Honestly, it is baffling, and for those reasons, it's going to sell really, really well. Everyone's going to watch it. But in terms of pure boxing, and that's what this channel is, we're not going to discuss it. Let's talk about the real boxing events happening on this card, and I really want to talk about Baumgardner and a history-making fight that she's going to be in. So let's just run through the undercard. We'll start at the bottom. Avius Griffin is taking on Cesar Francis. That's for an 8-round welterweight bout. Yukasta Vale is taking on Yadira Bastillos. Vale is going to defend her WBC strawweight title. Ellie Scottney will attempt to defend her undisputed super bantamweight title against Mayeli Flores. I really wanted it to be Sky Nicholson, but it's not going to happen, and I feel like it's not going to happen because it's MVP and Sky is with Matchroom, although it should have been them. Sky Nicholson is ranked number 1, and I really wish she got a mandatory, so they had to do it. Sky Nicholson, she deserves to be fighting for a belt at least, if not holding one. So with Ellie Scottney now taken out of the ring for a few months, I hope Sky Nicholson either has a keep busy fight or she looks and tries to get back at Tiara Brown. Tiara Brown still claims that she turned it down because there wasn't enough money. I don't know. But Gary Antoine Russell, he's taking on Andy Hirawaka. That's for the WBA super lightweight belt that Gary Antoine Russell holds. And finally, Alicia Baumgardner versus Layla Beaudoin. This is a big fight. This is a big fight, and it's a history-making fight. And it's history-making because it's going to be men's championship rules. 12 rounds, 3 minutes apiece, and it's going to be for the unified super featherweight title, IBF, WBO, and WBA. Look, a few days ago, Alicia Baumgardner, she vacated the WBC belt. She was undisputed, and I was wondering why, and it has come out why. Now, apparently the WBC will not sanction a women's championship fight that is under men's championship rules, which I think is really fucking weird. I think it's odd. I think they've missed a trick here not being part of this fight. I think the WBC will look back and think this is a mistake. Look, they can change the rules whenever they want, and they really should have changed the rules because this should be a history-making undisputed bout at men's rules, and we could have all watched and seen how it went, good or bad, positive, negative, and been a part of it and seen what would have happened. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen, and I think the WBC will look back on it regretfully. But I want to talk about this because I think there's a lot of positives in this, but I also want to express my concerns with it and really weigh up this decision. Ultimately, I think we're going to find out how this goes either after this fight or after a few of these fights. I don't necessarily think it's going to be shown in this fight. It very well could be, and we're going to talk about those things. Let's first talk about the positives. I think it's really, really, really exciting. I wanted 12 3-minute rounds for Taylor versus Serrano 3. I thought that would have been a great time to put it in. Two top women athletes, and we would have seen how it went. But big up to Baumgardner and Beaudoin for choosing to do this, agreeing on it, and we're going to find out how it goes. Now, the thing I like about it is, for one, I think it is a way in which the women can start probably building up their profiles. I know, not me personally, but I know a lot of people sneer at the women because they fight 10 2-minute rounds. And you've got a whole debacle about women being paid the same as men and everything else. And for all these reasons, I actually talk about MVP a lot because I think what they've done for the women's sport is nothing short of amazing and extraordinary. My problems now lie in the idea of the women's depths. Now, I think all the top women across all the divisions can fight 10 2-minute rounds. I think all of them can. I think they're all extraordinary athletes. I think they're all very, very good. My problem is right now, you look through all the women's divisions, lots of undisputed champions, lots of unified champions, and I think it speaks to the depth of each division. I think there's a lack of competitiveness and lack of depth. I think we always see one or two standout competitors in each division, and you say they're the best one. And some of them go in and out of divisions quite easily because they're that good. You know, they can happily move between the divisions. You look at Clarissa Shields and how many she's dominated. You look at Serrano moving up divisions. You're looking at Taylor moving around divisions. You're looking at all these champions that have been able to get high amounts of belts in each division, and it's because I think there's a lack of depth. Now, this worries me because for me personally, I think if all the women are fighting really, really entertaining fights and competitive fights that are 10 rounds, 2 minutes each, it's a lot more exciting and it's better for the women's boxing than moving it to 12 3-minute rounds. And, you know, the fights are less competitive, they're less engaging, they're less exciting, there's less depth, there's more fights that are one-sided, or there's more fighters that are dominating because the longer fight benefits them. And it is a longer fight. Let's not make any question about it. We're not talking about 3 or 4 minutes difference. A men's ring time is 36 minutes. A women's one is 20 minutes. So you're almost doubling the amount of ring time a typical woman fighter experiences. Now, this will be both of these fighters' first time doing this, but I think Baumgardner already has an edge in this fight because she's fought the full 20 minutes, full 10 rounds at 2 minutes apiece 5 times in her career. Beaudoin has fought it once. She's actually been in 2 10-round fights. One went the distance, one stopped in the 6th round. Most of her fights have been 8 and 6-round contests. Yes, they have gone the distance, but we're talking about 12 minutes and 16-minute fights. We're now looking at a 36-minute contest, and this is what worries me because although we might be able to get a few fights very high competitiveness here, I think we're going to see some fights that become boring, that the fighters might get gassed by the 6th or 8th round because none of them are used to fighting 3 minutes, never alone doing it over the course of 12 rounds. Now, this is a one-fight thing. Let's not make a mistake of it. This is a one-fight thing, and maybe they just keep it to the people that can really make this a competitive bout, and I think we're going to see how both these fighters go on the weekend of this fight. If it's something that we can put into all the fights, some of the fights, none of the fights. As far as what I think of this contest, I think it's very good. I think it is a judgment call, but the problem that I have with it is you got to find a way of which being consistent. And that'll be the question around this, because the men, they fight 12 rounds for a championship. Most of the other fights are 10 or 8 rounds. Does this now mean that the women's boxing changes, that everybody fights 3 minutes and the rounds change? Does this mean that they still fight 2 minutes, 8 rounds, 2 minutes, 6 rounds, 2 minute, 10 rounds? And we save this for special occasions, but then the special occasions might not be so special because none of these fighters are used to fighting that time. None of them have experienced that time. None of them know what it's like in a competitive environment to fight this long. These are the questions that you got to start asking, because this is a history-changing moment. This will be the first time it's done. And with all new things, there's going to become problems. There's going to become questions. There's going to become all of this hoo-ha around it. And with women's boxing right now, I think it's very, very good. And I think MVP has a lot to hold within that. I think they've been very, very good in showcasing this women's boxing movement. But I do worry how this affects some of the women that aren't at the top level. Are they going to be pushed out because they are unable to compete at this level that they're now going to set? Look, there's a few women's fights on this card, and this is the only one that is actually 12 rounds. Like Ellie Scottney, she's fighting for an undisputed, but that's going to be in normal time. I do worry. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be different. It's going to be unique. I hope it goes well, but I don't really think we're going to know until we've seen it a few times. Look, if it doesn't work this time, do I think they should scrap the idea completely? Probably not, but I think they need to work out a way of changing up the way they're going to introduce it. And by that, I mean make them 3 minutes long, but still 10 and 8 rounds. Don't necessarily have to go all in on the first go, if that makes sense. And if it was me, I'd probably have done that. I probably would have got a few fighters to do 8 round contests or 10 round contests at 3 minutes. That way the contest is shortened down to about 30 minutes, 26, 28 minutes, depending on length of rounds, rather than going from a 20-minute fight to a 36-minute fight. Look, I know it sounds very negative, and I have picked this apart quite a bit here. Don't get me wrong, I do like to see it. I am excited to watch it. I hope it works. I hope they find a way that they can make most fights longer for the women, and they can start making... Because the fact is, it's going to be something that's going to have to be grown into. We're talking all these juniors and women that are between the ages of 8 and 18, 18 and 21. The only way they're going to learn how to fight this amount of time is by practicing, and is by doing it over the course of 3-minute rounds, 4 rounds, 6 rounds, 8 rounds, and learning, so that when they become 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, they're fighting for world titles, it's not just a massive leap into the abyss. They already know how to fight that. And that's something that I think these organizations need to work on. And I think this is something that the WBC has recognized. I think they don't want to set a precedence of all these women now having to fight 12 rounds at 3 minutes, because I feel like the WBC doesn't think it's going to work. And if I'm being honest, I think it works for the highest level of these women, but I think it's going to affect some of the middle and lower range fighters that stick around boxing, that are trying to push for a title, have always sort of come up short. I think they might be pushed to the side a little bit. And I don't want to see that, because the fact is we need the depth within the women's boxing. All right, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think of the card? What do we think of Baumgardner versus Beaudoin? Do we think it's going to be a good fight? Do we think that by the 8th or 9th round they might be gassed and the spectacle might be lost a little bit? I do have my concerns. I really hope it works. I hope these two put on an extraordinary show over the time, and both of them can be competitive throughout the 12 rounds. I really do hope that. I hope it can open the door for some of these women that do want to fight 12 rounds, give them the opportunity, but I hope it doesn't close the door on those comfortable at 2 minutes. I hope that makes sense. Like, subscribe, and I'm out of here, guys. See ya.